Hello and welcome to another audio analysis. In today's video we're taking a look at the track Paper Machete by the American rock band Queens of the Stone Age. This is the final track to be made available ahead of the release of their upcoming album In Times New Roman, which does land this Friday, and I'm sure many people will be very excited to finally get to hear it in its entirety. I really wasn't expecting to get to hear another track ahead of the release of the album, but from the first two we did have in the form of Emotion Sickness and Carnivore, we certainly saw a very brutal and very honest depiction coming from Josh Homme in the songwriting, focusing on things such as his ex-wife and things like that, really touching from an honest perspective about his life and what he's been through since the release of their previous album. And I expect this track to do very much the same, the idea of this machete that's going to be coming in, a weapon that can be used against somebody. So will this song prove to be sharp or blunt? Let's take a look at exactly how it sounds. Okay, already we can see a bit of variation between this track and the other two we have heard. This one much more structured, much more melodic, much more in a straight line almost, rather than being very broken, very sporadic, and more kind of swayful, which we have seen on Emotion Sickness and Carnivore. So I kind of like this change up in the pacing, change up in the style as well. So it has much more of a garage rock feel to it, much kind of dirtier, much grittier in its sound. So great to see a bit of variation coming across on the album. And again, I love the lyrics. It's certainly straight away tying to this idea of Josh Homme's ex-wife. They're out to get you, aren't they? The kids, the man, the chicks, the breaks. The idea that kind of everybody in the world is against you, playing the victim. And we see that with the later lines, Joan of Arc, victim, perpetrator. Some people saw her as a saint, some people saw her as almost public enemy number one. So you can see this idea of trying to play both sides almost, trying to really win everybody over, make yourself seem like the victim when you are the perpetrator of a lot of your actions. So really touching on that, doing it from that personal perspective. I don't care what you think anymore. And I love the double entendre we've got of just a paper machete, the idea that you're a blade but you're so blunt you just fold almost, but it's also a play on the idea of paper mache as well, the idea of folding paper and things like that, so the idea that you fold under pressure. So I really do like how it's got those dual meanings, but done through the idea of a weapon that just effectively is trying to cause damage but isn't able to, because Josh Homme's almost aware of the situation. He's kind of bouncing off it, the weapon's bouncing off him because he's kind of made of stone almost, and he's reflecting the kind of damage that's trying to be done to him. The truth is just a piece of clay. You scoop, you change, you hide, then you erase. You think you're brave, all the plans you make, they hide your back and from far away. Truth is face to face, you're a coward, sharp as a paper machete. Okay, so it looks like we're not actually getting a chorus in this track. We've gone straight into the second verse. The truth is just a piece of clay. I love this idea of sculpting. Someone can kind of have very different forms depending on who they're with or how they want to convey themselves, how they're feeling emotionally at the time. And he's really reflecting that, really pushing the onus onto his ex-wife, that it's her fault and she's the one to blame. You can really see it from his perspective and how he feels, really just pushing all that with the constant you sculpt, you change, you hide. And the idea of then you erase as well is quite interesting, to kind of, you almost like erase from other people's memories that you are kind of the bad person in that relationship. You kind of wear a veil almost. You think you're brave. I love that kind of question that we do get with a slightly raised vocal at the end of that line. All the plans you made behind my back and for Farah. So you can really see this kind of aggressive tone that's being kind of projected very heavily through these verses. And then truth is face to face, you're a coward. So kind of almost this idea of stab me in the front, don't try and stab me in the back, because you'll kind of have this face to face before you've got this line coming in sharp as a paper machete. So again, that reflection that you can do no damage to me. love in the bridge how we'd start to see a bit more playfulness. The drums are very scattered, they're very sporadic and all over the place, but they're still keeping it much more melodic, much more in line, even though the guitars are getting these occasional little flicks to really explore and do different things. But I like how they're really making use of the drums to give this chaotic, frantic energy as we do head into the bridge, rather than relying on the guitars to bring more energy, to really ramp things up. They're letting the drums really show that kind of chaotic feeling, that franticness when kind of things are coming to their boiling point almost. Now, I know you use anything, anyone to make yourself look clean, so really reflects on that second verse, the idea that you'll kind of use anybody, you'll use anything to make yourself seem like the victims. And that's something that people often do. They will put the blame onto the person in the relationship that isn't actually causing any issues because they're not getting what they want. And this idea of in sickness, no vows mean anything. So you could be mentally sick, you're kind of projecting your aggression, your violence onto somebody and doing things that shouldn't be done. And I love how to play on the idea of wedding vows. In sickness, no vows mean anything. So because of what you're doing to me, our vows are almost null, they are void. So again, reflecting on this idea of this divorce that he's gone through. And I love the idea of so long cruelty, so long too late, so long my love is dead. Just this broken kind of section we do have in the bridge. It really shows the breaking of this relationship, and they kind of reflect that with the vocal tone and the delivery on those lyrics, which I really do enjoy. Okay, I actually really enjoyed that. I liked the more structured styling, and interestingly, for some reason, the guitars have a very similar sounding structure to the Hive's Tick Tick Boom. It's something I kind of picked up on right towards the end of the track, certainly just the start, to kind of give it that quicker delivery, to really just kind of give it that slightly more in-your-face kind of pace, which I really did like. And the idea of you speak lioness and damsel in distress so fluently. Again, these contrasting things, we saw it in the first verse with John of Arc, victim, perpetrator. You really see these kind of two sides, trying to play both sides of the coin almost, so it's really great how they kind of really touch on that quite heavily. Does your every single relation end in pain and misery? So no matter what you do, you're always kind of reflecting pain and misery onto other people in your life. So really just has this very kind of almost aggressive just tone of just really Josh Homme going to town, being brutally honest about his feelings, and I think that makes the track so much stronger as well, in the way that he isn't hiding anything. He's not painting this breakup as being kind of soft and kind of quite easy. He's really painting it as this kind of disturbing, almost really difficult situation, and I like that he kind of has that honesty about him because it makes the tracks so much more impactful. I also really liked how we had these almost winding guitar parts and really letting the instruments really show their playful side, giving them a bit of space to breathe, because obviously this album is going to be very reflective of Josh Homme and his opinions and his thoughts, so it's not him just ruling the entire album. He's really giving the instruments some time to show their prowess, and I really did like that with the chaotic drums, these little creative guitar flicks that we did have, as well as the nice instrumental, considering we haven't actually got a chorus in this song. But amazingly, despite the lack of a chorus, it's still quite hooky, and with the paper Machete, and it's still very melodic with a good pacing on it that is brought through from the instrumental section. This will also be track 2 on the album, so it's going to show this very sharp contrast between Emotion Sickness and this track. You really see the two different styles but conveying the same message, so I think they're going to be placed very well together on the album when it does land on Friday. So that will be everything for today's video, but I am really excited to finally get to hear this album on Friday. I've been very impressed with the 3 tracks we have heard from it so far, and hopefully the rest of the album will live up to the same prowess that we have seen already. Also, feel free to let me know your thoughts about this track in the comments section below. Do you think it's the strongest of the 3 we've heard so far, or are you really set on one of the other 2 that we have heard previously? I would love to know your thoughts, and if you would also like to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next dojo analysis.